Hello and welcome to Unit 7, your systems unit. You thought the absolute value unit was short. Well, this one's even shorter. This is only a 2-day lesson. That's right. So 2 lessons. We'll give you some work time in between. Like I said, at the end of each unit, you'll have a hand-in that you'll hand in just so I can see that you've understood the concepts. So I'm just going to go through the notes instead of writing everything out because it's a lot of graphing and I already have it in your notes and it's color-coded. The only thing it's missing is technology that it doesn't put arrowheads. So remember that your parabola and lines do need to have arrowheads. But otherwise, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You've heard me say this many times. There's absolutely nothing new. We're learning today. We should have a quarantine bingo every time Miss Kula says, we're not learning anything new today. You can check that off. But it's true. Rarely do we learn anything new in math. We're just taking concepts we've learned previously and applying it in a different way or connecting them in a different way. So that's why you need to do every question from every assignment every day, every year in math, because it will come up somewhere in the future. So like I said, if you've been doing your homework your entire life, this is easy. So systems, we're solving systems. There's only 2 lessons. Today we're going to solve them by graphing. The next lesson we solve by algebra, and that's it. That's a 2-day lesson. So again, I'll just go through this because it's pretty self-explanatory. So when we solve systems, well, we know how to solve systems. We had a unit last year in grade 10 math. You had a solving systems unit, but last year there were 2x2 systems. We solved 2 lines at a time by graphing them and then by algebra. So we already know the substitution, elimination, and graphing method for solving systems. We did that last year. The only difference is last year we solved 2x2s where they were both lines. This year they could be a line and a parabola or 2 parabolas. That's it. But you have the fundamentals from last year. We learned how to solve systems. So you know what that means. When we say solve a system, that just means we're looking for the points where they intersect. The intersection points of the 2 functions or 2 graphs will be their solutions. So we know that. So just to review, linear functions, we know that from grade 10. We spent an entire month on linear functions. You know how to graph a line. You can use any method that you learned back in grade 10 math. Slope, intercept, table of values, intercept method. So now we teach you the tools, but now that we use them, it's up to you. So whichever method you feel comfortable with to graph your line, use that. Then quadratic functions, that's a parabola. We know how to graph those. We spent the entire month of February pretty much graphing parabolas. We looked at different methods as well, completion of squares, table of values, transformation. So whichever method you feel most comfortable with, you can use. So you already should know how to graph a line and graph a parabola. If you don't, go back and reread your notes from grade 10 and from February, so you know how to do that. I do have a summary sheet that I will send to you that just reviews the different methods we've learned about how to graph lines and how to graph parabolas. Okay, so in this unit, how many solutions are there? Well, it depends. So we'll go through them. So let's look at the linear quadratic first. So linear quadratic, you're drawing a line and a parabola at the same time. I know it's tough to see, but you have those notes at home. So sometimes you can have 2 solutions. Well, when I stand in front, I know there's a glare. So they intersect here and here. There's twice where they overlap. So this would have 2 solutions. Or you can have a parabola and a line intersect only once. This is the only spot where they overlap, so that's 1 solution, and that would be the solution there. Or sometimes there's no solutions. The parabola and line will never ever meet, so there's no solutions. And the other one is infinite. You can never have infinite solutions. Why? Well, let me explain where it can, and then we'll come back to that. Okay, let's review for quadratic quadratics. So when you draw 2 parabolas, sometimes they overlap twice. These 2 parabolas overlap here, here, so they would have 2 solutions. These parabolas only have 1 solution. They only meet once. Their vertices meet, and that's only once. So that's 1 solution. Or maybe they never meet. This would have no solution. Or it's infinite. We learned infinite solutions last year in grade 10 math. We know what infinite solution means. When you draw the 2 parabolas, they actually are the same graph, right? So when you draw one, it goes over top, that's infinite. So you know about infinite solutions last year from grade 10 math. So like I said, nothing new. We learned about solving systems by graphing. Last year, we was always 2 lines at a time. Now we're just doing a line with a parabola or 2 parabolas. That's it. So like I said, should be nice, real easy unit. Absolutely nothing new in this lesson today. So I have 2 examples in your notes. So the first one is a linear quadratic pair. So again, solve the system by graphing. So one's a line, one's a parabola. You know how to graph lines and parabola by now, so whichever method you want. When you graph, I've done it on Desmo, so I've pre-done it. So when you graph them together, again, remember you do need a scale, which I have. You should have X, Y axes and arrowheads on each of those. My program doesn't add arrowheads. So you can look, they overlap twice. So I can tell right away this is a quadratic linear pair. They have 2 solutions. What are they? You literally just read off the graph. The first solution is at -2, 1, and the other one is at -5, 4. So those are the two solutions to the system. It's that easy. Now, what does that mean? So those solutions means that those are the points where the two systems overlap. You do need to verify only if I ask you to. Now, we know how to verify. Now, your notes, I'm still using equal signs, but I should change that. That's not really correct. I'll give you an updated version where they're no longer equal signs, but it should be T-charts. If you start with an equal sign and they're not equal, then that's a procedural error. We don't know if they're equal, so we use a T-chart. So I had one on the whiteboard, but like I said, in your updated version, I'll make that into T-charts. You should not have equal signs when you're verifying in case it's not true. But like I said, we've done verifying several times in this course already, so you should be good at your T-charts and verifications. Okay, and then the last example is a quadratic pair. So this example, we have y equals -x squared, y equals x squared minus 18. Those are both parabolas. Graph them whichever method you prefer from what we learned in the month of February. So one parabola goes up, one parabola goes down. How many solutions do they have? You can see right away they overlap here and here. This is the point -3, -9. That's the point 3, -9. So there's two solutions. The two solutions are 3, -9, -3, -9. That easy. Like I said, there is absolutely nothing new in this lesson today. So for your assignment, I'm leaving you 3 questions. I believe number 2, you're just practicing to verify. Number 3, they give you graphs and you have to identify which type it is and what the solution is. Now number 4, you're graphing. If we were in class, we'd be graphing by hand, but because you're at home and we want to make things as easy as possible, under this situation, you can use Desmos to graph it and use technology because we have no final exam and your hands in, you'll be doing it at home, so I can't see whether or not you're using technology. But just to warn you, next year in grade 12 pre-cal, there is no graphing calculator allowed at all. The entire course is done without. So you do need to know how to graph your parabolas in line without the use of technology in pre-cal, and that's because pre-cal is leading you up to calculus. The entire course of calculus is done without a calculator. So, like I said, it's good practice if you can to plot these on your own without Desmos or technology, but in light of the circumstances, just to make your life a little bit easier, you can use Desmos, you don't have to verify, because we just want to get the concepts in place of how you can solve different systems. Okay, so have fun with this one. And then our second and last lesson in this unit is just, we're going to solve the same systems, but instead of graphing, we're using algebra, and the two methods are either substitution or elimination. You learned those last year in grade 10. So before next lesson, it'd be good to reread your notes from grade 10 math. How did we substitute and eliminate using 2x2 systems? If you review those before next lesson, it'll be much easier when we apply those to quadratics. Okay, have fun with your assignment.